What is up, everybody? Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Today, we're going to go through some documents I received from my first FOIA request, and I got the police report for the investigation into Dan Markel's murder. And I started looking through it, and then I noticed there was some supplemental reports, and they talked about Sigfredo Garcia and some conversations he had in jail. All right, so this is as you can see, this is from the Tallahassee Police Department, December 27, 2016. And so here we go. Supplemental report, death investigation. I hope everyone can read that. I increased the font. On December 13th, 2016, I was notified, and this is, let's see who this is. Is this Craig Isom, Detective Isom, for those who know that, the lead detective. On December 13th, I was notified by the state's attorney's office that the state's attorney's office had received a letter from Jason McNair, an inmate at the Leon County Jail. The letter was addressed to Miss Georgia Kappelman, the assistant state attorney prosecuting the Markel homicide. McNair stated in this letter that he had a lot of information on Garcia and Magbanawa, who are co-defendants in the Markel murder. McNair stated in the letter he would be willing to provide the information. Records indicate McNair was in the same housing pod as Garcia from September 12, 2016 to October 10th, 2016. And there's his numbers. So I went to the jail on December 20th, 2016 to conduct an interview with McNair, who is now housed in Pod J. McNair was summoned to a conference room for the J Pod where he and I conversed in a closed room. McNair provided some of his background and stated he was in the L Pod with Garcia in September and October of 2016. He was asked to describe the setting and stated there were usually 96 inmates in the pod with 2 inmates assigned to each individual cell. Aside from the lockdown at night or when inmates were transferred in and out of the pod, the inmates were allowed access to other cells and common area of the pod. On an unknown date, sometime after Magbanawa's arrest, October 1st, 2016, Garcia began talking to McNair and other inmates about the murder and how he became involved in carrying out the crime. And let's get to the good stuff. Garcia said he was offered the task by his ex-girlfriend and mother of his children. McNair said Garcia referred to this woman by her last name that McNair knows starts with an M. McNair does not know why Garcia did this when telling his account, as McNair knows the woman's first name is Katie. Now, here we go, guys. Here we go. Garcia told him another woman named Donna asked Katie about having someone killed for money. McNair said Garcia also referred to this woman as Donna Adelson, who is a mother-in-law or grandmother that wanted the man killed to get custody of the 2 children. Garcia also said Donna had paid 2 other people $50,000 up front to commit the murder, but they did not do so. This time, Don told Katie she would pay $5,000 up front for expenses, then $100,000 once it was done. So, for folks who don't know, Katie Magbanawa, even when she had changed her story and started telling the truth, never, ever admitted to talking to Donna Adelson. She never admitted to that. She never admitted to that. And also another interesting part that Babe brought up is Garcia also said Don had paid 2 other people $50,000 up front to commit the murder. Do you guys remember Jeff Lacasa's testimony? Do you remember when he said that Wendy said they looked into hiring a hitman for, he thought, $5,000 or $50,000? Sounds like Wendy was telling Jeff the truth. And people had, so this must be out there because people have asked me, have you heard about, was there a first, they paid a hitman the first time? And I had never heard it. So I guess it's coming from this, where they allegedly, per Garcia, Donna Adelson was talking to Katie Magbanawa and told her, she was involved, Donna. And they allegedly paid $50,000 up front to other people to commit the murder, but they did not do so. So I thought this. Now this is not going to come into the trial because this is all hearsay. I just think it's interesting because if Sigfredo doesn't testify, I don't think they've never called this person. They probably won't, and it probably won't help in a trial. But to me, what this means, and it seems like it's legit. I mean, I don't know that I can't tell the credibility of this witness. But why would they lie? I don't know. Anyway, it means to me. I've always said that even when Katie started telling the truth, she was holding back. It just really, her proffers were brutal. It was so hard to like pull stuff out of her. And if she talked to Donna, I feel like she probably did. And she's just never admitted to it. She admitted to some stuff, but she never admitted talking to Donna. And I feel like Donna and Katie probably talked. All right. As this information became pertinent to the case, I asked McNair if he would agree to the conversation audio recorded. McNair agreed to the recording, and I activated a digital recorder for the remainder of the interview. In addition to the above information, McNair provided the following information recorded. Rivera was enlisted to drive a car for the murder and part of the $100K. We know that's true. Rivera did not know the trip was for murder initially. We know that's true. At least Tuto testified to that. There were 2 trips made to commit the murder, the first being a blank trip. We know that's true. Like, is he just making this up? Did he somehow get this information some other way? The murder occurred at a house in a garage. We know that's true. Garcia said he was the actual shooter, did not say how many times he fired. We know that's true. The gun was purchased for $150 in Miami. Katie either bought it herself or provided the money to purchase the gun. That is true too. Upon returning to Miami, Katie obtained the money from the Adelsons, with Garcia getting $45K, Rivera getting $35K, and Katie getting $20 to $25K. Now that seems a little off, if I remember correctly. I thought Tuto got more than that, but I could be wrong. I don't know why. Maybe that is right. Garcia bought a motorcycle and 2 cars with his share of the money. We know that's true. Actually, I thought it was 1 car, but maybe it was 2. McNair claims this is independent information he received from Garcia, and he is willing to testify in court. McNair did not ask for any consideration prior to providing a statement, and nothing was promised or suggested before or after the interview. This audio recording has been provided to the state's attorney office. This case remains open and active. So that's the first report. All right, so let's go to report number 2. These are all supplemental reports. This is, all right, so if you remember, this was dated 12/27/16. Now let's go to 1/31/17. Still Craig Isom. All right, so I could probably make this a little bit bigger. That's what he said. Here we go. I received a message via email on January 3rd, 2017, referencing an inmate, Nicholas Atteridge. I returned to the call to Angela Finnick, an attorney who was acquainted with Atteridge. Ms. Finnick stated Atteridge wanted to provide a statement regarding his conversations with fellow inmate Sigfredo Garcia while they were housed together in the L pod at the Leon County Jail. It should be noted that I attempted to interview Atteridge previously during my interview with another inmate, Jason McNair. So that's the last guy. On December 20th, McNair had referred to a second inmate that had conversations with Garcia while in the L pod. McNair said the second inmate was Nick and thought his last name was similar to Aldridge. I conducted a search of inmates and found Atteridge was possibly the person McNair was referring to. On a subsequent jail visit the last week of December 2016, I met with Atteridge in the D-Pod conference room. Atteridge appeared to be groggy and sleep-deprived. I asked about any conversations he had with Garcia while in the L-Pod. Atteridge, I can make this a little bit bigger. That's what he said. I asked about any conversations he had with Garcia while they were together in the L-Pod. Atteridge portrayed suspicion in my inquiry and asked if McNair had named him. I acknowledged McNair had stated Nick was present when Garcia made incriminating statements in the L-Pod. Atteridge was not interested in providing any information, so the discussion was terminated, and Atteridge returned to his pod. On January 25th, 2017, all right, Pat Sanford's in. So Pat Sanford and I went to LCJ to contact, so this is the feds now involved. Pat Sanford and I went to LCJ to contact Atteridge in the D-Pod conference room. I reminded Atteridge that I had attempted to interview him the last week of December 2016. Atteridge acknowledged the visit and said he had not slept for several days because his cases were pending plea agreements, and at that time, and he thought my inquiry was about other criminal activity he was part of, either previously or while in custody at LCJ. He went on to say he had just had a visit with his attorney before coming to the state conference room to see us and had signed a sentencing agreement for his charges where he would eventually be transferred to the state prison. Atteridge expressed his willingness to provide information on his interaction with Sigfredo Garcia while they were in the L pod at the Leon County Jail. After some conversation regarding his time spent in the L pod and interaction with Garcia, it was apparent Atteridge was familiar with the participants and events in the murder conspiracy. Atteridge agreed to have his statement audio recorded. So as you can see, this guy initially was like, I'm not saying shit. Is this about me? Then he realizes it's legit. And he said, during the interview, I reminded Atteridge, since his sentence had been determined prior to our interview, there would be no consideration for his testimony, to which he agreed. In summary, Atteridge had two significant conferences with Garcia regarding the murder. The first was when Garcia learned co-defendant Luis Rivera had accepted a plea in exchange for testimony. Sigfredo couldn't have been happy with that. After getting drunk on homemade alcohol, Atteridge referred to as toilet wine, nothing better than some good old toilet wine, Garcia began complaining to inmates by saying Rivera waited in the car while Garcia shot Markel and Rivera had supplied the gun used in the murder. Oh, all right. So first he complains by saying Rivera waited in the car while Garcia, and we know that's true. Rivera waited in the car, Garcia shot Markel, and Rivera bought the gun. This is all we know. This is true. The second conversation occurred when Garcia found out Catherine Magbanawa had been arrested. Once again, Garcia got drunk and said he wanted to get word to Magbanawa to testify against himself. Oh, once again, Garcia got drunk. Hold on. This is good stuff. I forgot about this. I'm getting a little distracted by Chris Farley here. Whoops. Chris, you're going to have to take a break today. All right. The second conversation occurred when Garcia found out Catherine Magbanawa had been arrested. Once again, Garcia got drunk and said he wanted to get word to Magbanawa to testify against himself and the Adelsons. Atteridge asked Garcia how much he had gotten paid for the murder. Garcia never gave a monetary amount, stating Magbanawa got breast enhancement and Garcia and Rivera got toys, referring to motorcycles and cash, which we know is true. Atteridge went on to say he understood from Garcia that Magbanawa brought the murder plot to Garcia, telling him her ex-boyfriend's mother wanted the murder to happen and paid for it to be completed. That's Donna. After the conclusion of the initial recorded interview, Atteridge stated he wanted to add some information. I activated the audio recorder again, and Atteridge provided the additional information which concerned Garcia, stating his money would stop being sent to LCJ since Magbanawa was arrested herself. So he would no longer get money because Katie was arrested. This money was from the murder payment, according to Garcia. So Sigfredo was saying he's no longer getting money sent to him in jail because she was sending him murder money in jail. And that's going to stop now because she got arrested. Atteridge stated the information he was provided from Garcia, and he understood he may be called to testify in court. A copy of the audio recordings will be submitted to the state's attorney's office. The case remains open and active. So two witnesses that sure seem like Garcia was getting drunk. I mean, the biggest part of this one, I think, is once again, Garcia got drunk and he said he wanted to get word to Magbanawa to testify against himself and the Adelsons. Huh? That's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. All right. That's the second supplemental report regarding Garcia. And, you don't hear anything Garcia other than this. Dude shuts his mouth. So now we're on to the third report. All right. So the first report, December 27, 2016. The second report was like a month later, 1/31/2017. And then we got this third report, which is 6/28/2017. All right. Here we go. Again, it's Craig Isom. The morning of June 13, 2017, I went to the state's attorney's office for a scheduled interview of John L. Leishman, an inmate of Leon County Jail, who wanted to provide testimony of his interactions with Sigfredo Garcia while they were in custody together in the L pod at LCJ. During the initial conversation, Leishman provided some of his background and his incarceration history to Pat Sanford and me. He then provided information on his interaction with Garcia while in custody. We then moved to another room in the state's attorney's office for purposes of audio recording Leishman's complete statement. The following is a summary of his account. Please refer to the audio recording provided to the state's attorney's office for further details. Leishman met Garcia in the pod in January 2017. They exercised together and eventually had conversations regarding Leishman's religious belief of salvation. Garcia told Leishman he did not believe he himself could be saved. When Leishman inquired as to Garcia's remark, Garcia told him he was facing the death penalty for murder. Garcia then told Leishman he had done worse things than the crime for which he was charged. Garcia told Leishman he had done worse things for the crime for which he was charged. Garcia said he was paid to commit murder. When Leishman asked how much he was paid for the murder, Garcia said about $100,000. Garcia said this amount was paid in increments to include housing and for a truck. Garcia said this money was paid by the victim's former in-laws to include the brother-in-law, and the murder for hire was arranged by Garcia's wife/girlfriend. Once the plan was set up, Garcia picked up his accomplice to make the trip and commit the murder. The accomplice drove the vehicle, and Garcia shot the victim using the term dome-checked, which Leishman defined as shot in the head, which we know is true. Garcia told Leishman his girlfriend had a sexual relationship with the brother-in-law, and the officer of murder for hire was channeled from the victim's in-laws through... I'm going to read that again. Garcia told Leishman his girlfriend had a sexual relationship with the brother-in-law, and the offer of murder for hire was channeled from the victim's in-laws through the girlfriend to Garcia. Leishman understood from the conversation that Garcia knew the money for murder was coming from the victim's in-laws. I mean, Leishman was not promised for his testimony and understood he may be called to testify in court concerning this case. And those are the three statements that I found, the supplemental reports. So, I mean, to me, interesting thing about these, first of all, there's really no mention of Wendy, right? But man, this really brings in, now this is all hearsay, right? It's all hearsay. So I don't even think these people can testify, which is probably why they haven't. But to me, it's super interesting. All three of them mention the in-laws. All three of them mention Donna. And to me, out of all three of these statements, this is the most interesting to me. This first one where they talk about Garcia told Don. I love that he calls another woman named Don, which clearly is Donna. But Donna was in contact with Katie, man. So if this guy is telling the truth, and he seems to have a lot of other facts that are correct, Katie Magbanaway and Donna Adelson were in contact. Katie has never admitted to that. Maybe she will in Donna's trial. We don't know. But Garcia said that Donna had paid two other people $50 up front to commit the murder, but they did not do so. Then Donna told Katie she would pay $5 up front for the expenses and $100,000 once it's done. I mean, that to me, when I read that, I'm like, holy shit, I believe it. I would absolutely believe that they paid someone $50 up front that just took their money and stole from them because they're idiots. But yeah, I think to me, this just Donna Adelson, potentially Harvey Adelson, were talking to Katie.